my name is Deanna Spraker, and it's nice to meet all of you. And I'm from Magnolia Lane Farms, and I live in rural Reach, Virginia, and I teach at Whitfield Community College. I teach anatomy. But one of my favorite professors in college was Dr. Dodrill of Whitfield State University, which is now a university. It was college when I went there. And he loved plants. He was my plant teacher. So he taught plant anatomy, he taught plant physiology. But even way before that, when I was a little kid, my favorite memory of my grandparents is harvest time in the fall. Not really necessarily weeding the garden, and not necessarily going out there and planting every single thing that they planted, but I loved going there for harvest time. Because they let me use a knife before my parents let me use a knife. And they let me help do a lot of things before my parents let me do things, because my parents were very protective. And so I got to sit there and peel apples and be a big girl and help cook stuff and help make tomato juice. And I mean, they canned everything. They canned dilly beans, beets, green beans, froze corn, sauerkraut, tomato juice, tomatoes, and the list goes on and on and on, because we had to do that, because they had a big family and most of the kids were gone by the time I was there. But we harvested everything, and I still remember it was a lot of family time. It was a lot of just sitting there and talking, getting to know my great aunts and uncles, sitting there and breaking peas and breaking beans. And I still to this day love to do that, because it takes me back to that place. So with flowers and plants, it will take you back to somewhere. It will transform you back to a lot of memories. So what I usually do is I ask people, I want you to think for a minute, and maybe 30 seconds. I want you to think about, do you have a memory of a flower or plant with a loved one or a family member who may still be here or may not still be here with you, but just a memory, like, oh my gosh, my grandma's favorite flower was gladiolus. Like, my grandma's wasn't. Hers was every flower known to man. Poppies, orange poppies, this color. She had tons of flowers, but I specifically remember she had orange poppies. So every time I see an orange poppy, I think of my grandma. And every time I see a red poppy, I think of my grandpa, because he was in the American Legion and he loved poppies and she loved poppies. And so it's amazing how you can connect with that. People come to the farm all the time and tell me stories. And I was telling Mimi earlier, I have a lady that just passed away that I knew, and I knew her children. And one of the best things that we get to do through all the hard work is we get to provide flowers sometimes for people when they pass away for their services. Or I've had people come and say, florists call me and say, I can't find gladiolus, and I don't have gladiolus, and somebody wants gladiolus for their father's gravesite, and they can't find them. Do you have any? And I'm like, I have a dozen. I'll bring them to you. That warms my heart. So the things that I get to do, those are great. The things my husband and I learned to do together and learn to persevere and tolerate each other to do is great. But all the connections that I make is absolutely the best part. All the connections I've made and all the people. So when I get down there in the spring, and I get down there every year and I want to quit, because it happens every spring, the one thing that I always say to myself is, no, you're where you're supposed to be, because you have all these people, and if you weren't doing this, you wouldn't know all these people that you now know because of the farm. So there are a lot of connections. So now that you've had way more than 30 seconds, I'm gonna ask you to tell me. I'm gonna start with Mimi, because I know Mimi. I've known Mimi for years. Mimi, do you have a flower or a plant or something that speaks to you?
I have a weird memory of a grandmother, and it's a weird memory because she passed away before I was at an age to speak. So I didn't really know her, but I wound up inheriting her journals. And when I read through her journals, she talked so often about her gladiolas. And I thought, gee, I wonder how hard they were, because she talked about them all the time, about growing them and cutting them and everything she was doing with gladiolas. And I thought, they've got to be really high maintenance, because she talks about gladiolas a lot. But when I see gladiolas, even though I didn't know her, I know she loved gladiolas.
So every time you see them, you think of her.
Yes.
They're not high maintenance. They grow in our greenhouse. They come back every single year and they spread like crazy. And they're not high maintenance at all. In a lot of areas, they're high pest, like a lot of pests like them. And I was afraid to grow them because somebody told me they were a typhoid Mary of things to grow. But she was in a regular arrangements because it reminds them of the funeral home, but if you just put a couple in an arrangement, they're so vibrant that they add so much to it. So I would urge you not to steer away from them because of that. If anything, move toward them because of that, because you're remembering people, just like maybe you said. Janet?
My mother, raised 14 children and ran an automotive hardware store and didn't have time for flowers but made time. And her favorite, I think, was either irises or African violets. Those two were the ones that, well, she told us the story of how she got started with irises. She said that when we were living in Kansas, they moved into our home when I was a baby, and she said, so this is an old story. So she said that the people who had moved out of the home had left some stuff at the trash, and a bunch of what was left at the trash were some irises. They're just laying there on the ground. So she went, maybe I'll plant those, see what will happen. And to this day, after her death, everybody went to her flower garden and dug up irises, and we split, all the siblings split them up. I didn't take any, but did you take any? But a lot of kids and grandkids took her irises. But I don't even know what happened to her African violets.
That's an awesome story. Actually, I know somebody that lost their father recently, and all the siblings, his favorite flower is African violets. So all of them got little tattoos on their shoulder of African violets. To me, that was very appropriate. So, maybe were you gonna add something to Janet's story? No? Tara, right?
Yes.
Okay, Tara.
My grandmother on my dad's side used to have a garden, and she grew okra, along with many other things, but she grew okra and her own dill, and she would make pickled okra, and that is one of my favorite foods.
I've never had pickled okra.
Oh gosh, it's so good.
I'm gonna have to try this now. That is awesome.
So every time I smell fresh dill, I think of her and that garden.
There is a word, and I cannot remember what it's called, and I've seen it tons of times and looked it up over and over. Cannot think of the word. I'll look it up before you all leave. There's a word for when you smell something and it transforms you, makes a memory, conjures up a memory immediately. It's called something. Never can remember what it's called, but it is called something. So like every time I smell sausage cooking, I think of going to my grandma's house and she would always cook breakfast for us. She would always fry sausage or bacon. So every time I smell sausage or bacon fried, I think of her. And I picture myself walking through the house. It's not even like I try to, it's just instantaneous. So it's very appropriate to talk about all these things because people don't understand why are flowers so just, mesmerizing. It's not just the flower, it's all the things you subconsciously think of that you don't know you're thinking of when you're looking at the flower. It's just, and certain flowers do that to people. You are not last, Juliana, but do you have a flower or a story?
We don't really plant flowers, more like vegetables and stuff. But no one really has like a specific flower they talk about all the time, but we recently planted marigolds. And when I think of marigolds, I kind of think of like family on my dad's side a lot. But
Because you have that memory, and that's a great memory to have. That's awesome. Well, I'm keeping track of my time, so I'm gonna tell you all kind of our backstory first, and then I'm gonna tell you about soil blocking, and then I'm gonna let you actually make your own blocks, and you're gonna leave with your own blocks today, okay? Really small class today, but I made 30 soil blocks. So you're gonna have time to spread out, get whatever seeds you want, seed your blocks, and you're gonna take them with you in Ziploc bags. And I'm gonna show you how to take care of them, and I'm gonna show you how to water them, and I'm gonna show you how you can go about doing this in the future. So I'm gonna tell you my backstory, and then I'm gonna tell you how I got into soil blocking. Then I'm gonna tell you how to soil block, then you're going to soil block. You're not gonna make the block, but I'll kind of tell you how that goes. So our story is, we had lived in our house for years, and we had about 3 acres. We had about 3.1 acres at our house in Rural Retreat. And because farming and my grandparents actually had cattle, and they leased property, and they had chickens, and they milked cattle, and they had beef cattle, and it wasn't a big operation, but they did all this, and they had a huge garden. It was kind of just in my blood. It always had been. So when we had this property, I kept telling my husband, let's farm it, let's do something. It's just sitting there. It's just sitting there. So for 13 years, I'm persistent. For 13 years, every single year, I would look up what was the most profitable farm that you could have. Well, I went through pumpkins, and a guy that I worked with at the time at Pulaski County High School said, no, that's too many pesticides and fungicides, you don't want to grow pumpkins. Then I went to soybeans, and there's not really a lot of soybean farmers around here, so that was out pretty quickly. We have a lot of farmers in my husband's family. And I taught biology, so I had a lot of people I could talk to. So then I wanted to be soddy bottom sprakers and have a sod farm. And my husband's uncle was like, no, because then when you pull up the sod, you gotta pull up your topsoil, and then you won't have any topsoil left. So that was out. Then I went to hops, I'm gonna grow hops, and my husband's uncle said, nope. He said, because then you're gonna have a lot of input to begin with, because it's gonna cost a lot of money to put up all the trellis, because hops take a lot of trellis to hold them up. Right. So that was out. So in 2018, in the fall of 2018, I looked it up again. About once a year I did this. And I looked at my husband and I said, what about flowers or mushrooms or herbs or something? And that night I was like, I said, this is some of the top stuff. And that night I thought, why have I not ever thought about flowers? I really want to do this. I'm gonna have to spend all weekend trying to convince him. 13 years of this. The next morning he gets up and goes, I got a name for a farm. I'm like, well, daggone, that wasn't no fun. But then I realized I've been trying to talk him into this for 13 years. So he, in his mind, thought, well, if it doesn't do good, it'll just be pretty flowers, no big deal, right? He figured I'd do it for a year and then we'd be done. It was 2018, this is 2024, and now we have flowers outside in the field, which is how we started. We have a 32 by 84 greenhouse and a 50 by 20 greenhouse. And the 50 by 20 is our retail greenhouse. So, yeah, that's how it started. That's how it started. I was persistent, and we did it because we wanted to have something to do in retirement, and I wanted to have something to do to keep us active, because I'm a firm believer when you retire, if you just sit on the couch, you go downhill both physically and mentally. So that was my whole reasoning behind it. We can't retire early at 55, 57 and just sit around. I can't. So we have to have something to do and earn enough money to pay health insurance was our goal. That number has significantly went up since 2018 because health insurance, when you retire, costs even more now, and everything costs more, food, every single thing. So that number has went up from we can make 12 grand a year the first year we can pay health insurance. No, that number's higher now. So we sell cut flowers to florists. These all came out of our greenhouse, and we sell vegetable plants in the spring, and we sell bedding plants in the spring, and we sell dahlia tubers, and I've done a couple soil blocking classes at the Higher Ed Center in Paddington, and so that's kind of what we do. And one of our thoughts is when we retire is to be able to have elementary, middle school, high school students, college students visit the farm and do some workshops and activities with them. But we'll see how that goes. You're really tied down, as you know, when you have a farm, you're really tied down. You can't leave the farm, you can't go anywhere. You gotta have somebody very responsible that knows how to do everything, that cares about plants, to not kill your plants when you're gone. So it's very intense during this time of year. I just got every plant out of our small greenhouse last week, worked all day, got it all outside so that it's much less maintenance now. So we actually felt like we weren't suffocating after the day that I got all that out of the greenhouse. So it's a lot. So would I do it again? Yeah, to meet all the people I've met. Would I do it different? Absolutely. There's lots of things I would do different, lots of things. So that's kind of how we got started. How I got into soil blocking when I started doing this, I knew a lot about plants and I had a biology background, but I didn't know a lot about all the ins and outs. And there are a lot of ins and outs, like, does the seed need light to germinate or does it need dark? Is it a tall variety? If you want a variety for a florist, it has to be tall. Is it a cut and come again flower? Like, when you cut it, does it bloom again? Lilies do not, but zinnias do, and dahlias do. The more you cut a dahlia, the more it blooms. But then there's a lot of other flowers. You have one stem with a bunch of blooms. Like this is one stem, all this orange. So there's tons of information. So I went to seminars and I joined groups online, and I joined the American Association of Specialty Cut Flower Growers. I joined that. I went to conferences. I went to webinars. I watched videos online. There's this lady named Lisa Mason Ziegler, and she's in Williamsburg, and she has a farm in the middle of a residential section that's been there forever, where everything builds up around them. Their farm's still there. And I learned how to sew a block from her online, and I actually went to a conference and met her in person, several conferences, and she showed us how to sew a block. And I love it. It's fun. I've taught nieces, nephews, kids. I used to go to Galax Elementary every year. My friend that used to teach 3rd grade there, we would do sew blocking with her kids. We'd make the sew blocks up just like I did for you today. They'd seed them and they'd take them home, or they'd leave them in her window in her classroom and see if they grew, and then plant them out and take them home. So we've done sew blocking with lots of people, and it's a great activity for kids. If you've got kids, grandkids, they love it. They love it. They're so excited. I've never had a kid not be excited to sew block. So it really is amazing, and when they get to see their plants grow, it makes them really appreciate and have that knowledge about where food comes from and where flowers come from. A lot of information about seeds and stuff. Just a lot of things you can teach kids through sew blocking. So I've sew blocked with tons of family. So what does a sew blocker look like? Well, this is one that's called a Mini 20, and it's all dirty because I used it this morning. And so this is called a Mini 20, and that's what you have in your packet you're going to use today. This is one of my favorite ones because it doesn't take up a lot of space. You can buy these little styrofoam trays at the Dollar Tree. You can get 30 for $1. So you can do 30 trays. And what is the advantage of sew blocking? It doesn't take up a lot of space. Like if you had one of those racks from Sam's, it's 5 racks, it's got wheels on it, you could put thousands of plants on that. So what you can fit on here is your trays have just 20, which is this, but can actually fit 2 of these on one of those little trays, and that would be 40 plants. So on a little tray like this, you could fit 40 seeds. And sometimes you're gonna wanna put 2 seeds in there, but this is what they look like. So you can actually put 2 of those side by side, and that's 40 plants on the tray. And when you get ready to plant them after they grow, you literally pick it up and break off each little block and plant it out. It's amazing. Watching them grow is even more amazing to me. So that is the Mini 20, which is here. Then you have this one that I've never used. My mom loves it. I'm not a big fan, but she loves it. This is a 4. This would be like what a lot of people use for sunflowers because they're bigger seeds. I don't use this for bigger seeds because I don't want to use that much soil, and I don't want to have to sew block for a lot longer. So I like to use this one, take the bigger seed and do what I call seeding in the crack, like the little crack in between. So you can seed in the crack, or there's a little dimple. When you get these, you'll see it. There's a little dimple on the top, which is what those little round things make. You can put the seed on there, lay it on the surface if it's a small seed that needs light to germinate, which is what we do with most of ours. But if it's a bigger seed, you can put it down in the cracks between the squares, or you can just put it on the top of a little dip and then just push it down in with a little like toothpick, basically. So this one, I'm not a big fan of it. I hate that sound, sorry. This right here too has these little inserts that you can get. And what you do is, if you were taking this block right here, and no, I do not do this. This is way too time consuming for commercial growing. Some people grow here, then they take that little one, make it a bigger block, and kind of pot it up in a soil block. No, I've never done that. Too much time. If we can afford to pay a bunch of people to help us, then sure. But some people put this little thing on here, and then when they do this, it makes a little square, and it's the same size as these, or just a little bit bigger. And then whenever they take this and want it to go up to a bigger soil block, they just take a little square off and stick it right in the little hole that this would make. Once again, I don't do that. there's another soil blocker. It's this one, which you can buy online. You can buy all these online. This one just has 4. This one is very easy to use. I just don't use it very much because it's the same thing with this one. It gives me 4 plants. This gives me 20. This is bigger bang for the buck. This is why I like it. So, now, biggest bang for the buck. We bought this year. This is a commercial swift blocker. And I brought it to show it to you because it is 200 blocks all at once. And what I'm going to show you right quick is, this is how you do this one. You lay this on something, like a piece of cardboard or something, you pack this full of soil, then you scrape off the soil with something like this, you scrape it flat across there, and then you take this top part, and you put it right down in here, and then you have, it's gonna be sitting up above it, and then you have to work it all around the sides to get it all to go all back together. And then literally you pull the entire thing up, and you've got 200 blocks. And all these little dimple things come off, so every time I use it, some of these fall off, so I have to have replacements. That's that one. Mimi picked it up earlier, she's like, that is heavy. So, how do you soil block? I've got 3 minutes, and then y'all are gonna soil block. So, when I did this, I put, you have to have the right stuff. So I have to have something like this, which is seed starting stuff. My 2 favorites. I do not work for either one of these companies. It's just what I've used that's worked. Miracle Grow, you can get this for about $5 a bag, but some places want to charge you like $20 a bag. So you can get it on clearance, but this one is great. Reason you have to have this type is because it's gonna hold more water. And those are small. So you would pour some of that in a container like this, add water, mix it all up. Best thing to mix with, old Tommy Tater masher. It's the best thing. Sometimes you can use this. So you can mix it all up, put your hand in there and squeeze it. If a little bit of water comes out, you're good to go. If a ton of water comes out, add more soil. If it's too dry, add more water. It's super easy, can't mess it up. So, the best tool on the farm, this and a butter knife and a pencil. A pencil with an eraser to plant sunflowers, just to push them down on the ground. This one to mix that, and a butter knife for all kinds of purposes. So, we mix with this. Then what I do is I just take that soil blocker and I put it down there in that pan and do this, and I just pack it on there. I just get a pair of gloves and I just pack it on there really good. Then you're gonna take it, and if this was a styrofoam tray, you're just gonna take it like this, lay it down, push this up and down like this, and then release it. You'll just release it completely and then pull it up, and you will have this right here. Super easy. This one's more intense, but anybody can do this too. That's what you do. And with that makes blocks. And then you just put your seeds in there. How do you water it and take care of it? This heat mat here underneath here is what I have. If you have a heat mat, you can germinate zinnia seeds overnight. I was skeptical, did not believe that, but I have done it. It's amazing. Zinnia seeds and watermelon seeds, radish seeds, they all seed really, really quickly. So if you have a little heat mat, don't worry about it being hot to the touch. It'll be warm, but it will not hurt you. Even when they're plugged up, it would have to be something wrong with it. Some of them have a thermostat. Sometimes thermostats don't work right, but they're not gonna burn you. They're absolutely not gonna burn you. They're not gonna get very hot. People try to use things like,
Electric blanket.
yeah, electric blankets and stuff. I would not do that. Don't do that. If you've done that before, that's dangerous, and I'll tell you why. These things are made for a little bit of water to get on and to be fine, or for you not to get electrocuted or something. So these are specifically made. I've looked up other things before to see what people use. Just buy heat mat. It's made specifically for that. Styrofoam will be fine on it. Plastic cafeteria trays are good to put like a bunch of those things on. So I suggest if you want to germinate stuff quickly and efficiently, heat mat's the way to go, especially pepper plants. Pepper plants love it. You put it on there, as soon as they start germinating, take it off. We also have lights on our racks. So this one, like let's say you had a block like this, and let's say we planted pepper plants or flowers for Janet. Once you have half of those sprouting, take it off the heat mat if you have a heat mat, okay? And then how do you water it? All you do literally is you take something like this and you go to all your little trays. You don't have to pick them up. You can just pour in the corner. And you don't want to overwater, because if you overwater, it will eat your blocks. You don't want to pour it right on there, because you'll dissolve it all away. You want to pour it in the corner. If you can't tell whether it needs water or not, these clearly do not, you can pour a little bit in the corner and see if it sucks it up, and it'll look dry on the outside, but it'll look dry on the inside, but wet on the outside, and then you'll know you need to put more water in. If you watered all your trays, let's say you got 40 trays, and you come back to all your trays after you water everything, you come back to when there's a lot of water standing, just dump it off. Dump it off the edge. Okay, I'm through talking. Now you're up for your jobs. So this is what you do. I've made 30 blocked trays. Those are all for you. All for you. There's seeds up here. So literally, this is all you have to be careful about. When you pick up the trays, don't turn them sideways, because they'll slide. So keep them straight up and down. I know you can handle that, because I told you I came here with a bunch of crazy drivers on the road, and all of them are still there. So, I know y'all can do this. You're gonna pick up how many trays you want. There's 4 of you, there's 30 trays, that's 6 trays apiece. None for me, y'all are working today. So, you have 6 trays apiece to take home with, is that right? 6, 4, no, that's 24. Anyway, you have a bunch of trays, at least 6 trays. So, you're gonna just see whatever you wanna see. Nasturtium seeds are bigger. Bunch of the other ones are smaller. If you get a seed that's really, really small, there's a little plastic container there. Put some water in it, use a little toothpick. You can pick the seed up with a toothpick and put it on top of each little dimple, okay? So that, I'm done talking. Y'all are up, and I'll come around and help you.
Just 1 seed per block.
It depends. Sometimes, like if it's a marigold seed, I will like put 2 in there. So it just depends on, you can look on the back of some packs, they'll tell you the germination rate. Germination rate's lower, then we will use 2 seeds on each dimple. Or what I do a lot of times is I'll put a seed on each and every dimple, and then I'll go in and put seeds in every little, like where it triangulates, where all the little things meet, I'll just put an extra one in there.
Okay.
I knew that would work because when my little cousin Brayson was little, he accidentally dropped celosia. He dropped a pack on it. He was like, "Oh, Deanna, I'm so sorry." And I said, "It's fine, it's fine." It grew like crazy. I wouldn't suggest you just dump seeds over it, but if they're little tiny seeds, sometimes I just sprinkle on top of it. It's just, because sometimes they're so small. So y'all are up, box of blocks, plants, help yourself. There they are. If you want to come, Juliana, on the other side here, you can look at the plants from the other side there so that you would still have time to do yours. Thank y'all for coming. I appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you for coming and teaching us all
Well,
this.
you're welcome. You're very welcome. Y'all can take those rubber bands off too if you need to. It's a good choice. Marigolds germinate very quickly. Yes.
How hard are your forget-me-nots here?
Do what?
How hardy are forget-me-nots?
They're pretty hardy.
Are they?
Yeah, they're pretty hardy. Yeah. They absolutely are. And y'all can spread out here if you need to, there's plenty of space, or you can sit your extra blocks on another table and then work at your table. How do you wanna do this? It's up to you. Where do you wanna work at? Do you wanna work at that back table? Okay. You're gonna sit behind me.
they start to bloom, are they going to look different? I mean, am I gonna tell I have different, how will I know what I'm growing?
I'm gonna tell you that, that's a great question. It's an excellent question. So, I forgot to mention this, when you're planting anything, the most important thing on any farm commercially is a marker, not a Sharpie. A Sharpie is not UV resistant. A Sharpie, over long extended periods of watering, isn't waterproof either, trust me. Over many years of many things, losing a label, you need a garden marker. It is worth every penny, they're not that expensive, you can buy them on Amazon. It's for outdoor use, and it will keep the sun from making your label go away, and it will keep from when you water, your labels going away. So you can imagine thousands of cucumbers, thousands of tomatoes with labels with a Sharpie, you water, and you're like, where's my label? I can't tell that tomato from that tomato. I'm in trouble. And imagine if you've got something like Carolina Reaper peppers or a hot pepper that's hot, and you don't know if this is a Carolina Reaper or a green bell pepper. That is very troublesome. So when you do this, and I should have brought more markers, here's a marker, and you can mark on the side what it is that your tray has.
Okay.
Otherwise, you will not know any, which has, there's a marker for you guys to use.
Okay.
So we lay the seed on the square and then push it down, or just
Like,
let it sit?
it depends. If it's a small seed, you can just lay it on the surface, right on that dimple. Yes, you can lay it right on the surface. You don't even have to push it down in there. Usually small seeds need light to germinate, and usually large seeds need darkness. Now that's not, there's exceptions, but overall that's the case. So if you get like a nasturtium seed up there, I would push that down in between the cracks, or into the soil. But y'all let me know what you need.
How do I know if the seed is big or small?
When you take it out, if it looks like a sunflower seed, a squash seed, if it's bigger or it's big and round, or it looks, let me think of something that would be, let me show you what a nasturtium seed looks like, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. When you get Mimi, by the way, when you handle seeds, do not touch your mouth, do not eat food, and wash your hands as soon as you finish handling seeds. People don't think about it, but they put stuff on seeds to keep pests out. If you're at a meal, you're buying seed, you're anywhere where you're buying seed, you're buying bulk seed, you're buying seed in this package. It could say anything on the package, but you don't know what's been on the seed to preserve it, just like anything out there in nature. So make certain you wash your hands after you handle seeds all the time. There's even certain seeds that pregnant women should not handle. So you have to be extremely careful.
Yeah, these look fairly, those are big.
So when you
Big
get
or
to
small?
this is what I consider a big seed.
Okay.
Anything this big or bigger. So anything this big or bigger, ladies, would be what I consider a big seed. So that I would need to like push down in between and give it a lot more soil contact. So Juliana, this is what I consider a big seed, okay?
And you promised me these aren't all gonna germinate.
They won't all germinate. There's germination rates on back of packages, believe it or not. Sometimes we put a germination rate that says like 60. If you have a choice between 60 and 90, of course take 90. If you got something that germinates 99% of the time, I just put one seed in each block. If it's like below 75, even 80-ish, I mean, you can always just seed 2 seeds in each one. Usually the general rule of thumb is whatever you plant, you're gonna lose a quarter of it to disease, pest, rodents, groundhogs, whatever. The general rule of thumb is whatever you plant on a soil block, whatever you plant outside, you're gonna lose a quarter of it. So you don't need to be stingy with the seeds, is what Lisa Mason Ziegler would say. Don't be stingy with the seeds. If it's a really small seed, I would seed a couple in each little dimple. So,
Talk about, old seed. When do you not? How old can they be before? you
some
start
seeds
planting?
can be forever old. Do not listen to that date on the back of seeds. That is just a conspiracy to get you to buy more seeds. Most seeds are viable for a lot longer than what the package says. So if you've got old seeds at home, you could, I mean, I have some seeds that were about 10 years old that my grandma had when she passed away, and I planted them and they came up. I had some bean seeds that were the most beautiful beans I've ever had, and they were her seeds that I had kept. So,
Okay, so that's
so
a
absolutely.
whole lifestyle, huh?
yeah, no, you can keep them. Now, when you save seed, get your seed out of whatever it is. Like, let's say you're taking seed out of a tomato that's an heirloom. Take your seed out of that tomato, lay it on a paper towel, let it dry. The next day, go in and make sure you pick those seeds back off of that and put it on something else. You don't want any of the tomato juices and stuff on it, because then it will mold, even in a refrigerator. Then there's certain seeds you can freeze, and there's certain seeds you cannot. Do not freeze every single seed. But like bells of Ireland, you ever seen that? Bells of Ireland look like, they're green, and they have the most divine smell. Florists use them. They're tall and green, and they have like a little bell shape that points up that'll hold water. Those need to be stratified, so they have to be in the freezer first before, or exposed to cold before they'll grow. It's like peonies. The only reason they grow in our zone versus Myrtle Beach is because they need 3 months of below 32-degree temperatures to be able to grow. So Myrtle Beach can't grow them outside, and we can. So it's just stuff like that. So certain seeds you put in the freezer and keep them, and certain, like poppies you can put in the freezer. But other seeds you can't keep in the freezer, but you can keep in the refrigerator. And that'll help. And if you save seeds, I would put them on a paper towel, make sure there's no debris on them, label them, and then put them in a Ziploc bag, and then put them in your refrigerator, lay them like flat down, and put them somewhere to keep. And we save ox heart seeds every single year, because we have this ox heart, we call it Arno ox heart, and it's a 140-year-old seed from my husband's family that was kept, and his great uncle before he passed away gave me this seed, and we grow these every year and sell them, and we keep the seed every year because they don't produce. It's a tomato that doesn't have a lot of seeds inside of it, so we have to keep it and keep the seed going. And that seed is actually in the USDA seed bank. That seed, we donated some of them. We also donated them to Seed Savings Exchange, and they have it in Decorah, Iowa, and also in Norway in their seed bank, that 140-year-old seed. So that when we're no longer around, those seeds will still be around. And if they grow them out and eventually grow them out and think they do great, they may appear in their catwalk. You never know. Tiny, teeny seeds.
Well, I noticed that it's black and tan,
So this is what you do. If you've all got a marigold seed and it's black and tan and it looks long, like that, well, that one doesn't have long there. It has like a white end and a black end. See right there? Stick that in there, Beanie, so that the white end's sticking up. And so stick it in little dimples, straight up and down, the best you can, and white should be up. It's gonna be hard. And if you
I trimmed my fingernails last
can't do
night.
it, just put it down the cracks and they'll be fine. There's your extra ones.
So once these start coming up out of these blocks, how quickly do we need to get them into a bigger?
You usually don't wanna keep them on blocks past about 3 weeks, but I have pushed and pushed and pushed that. The one thing I also didn't tell you all is usually you don't wanna plant, let's say you have a big cafeteria tray, you've got a bunch of blocks on it. I was told when I first started doing this, not to plant on that tray, just plant all the same stuff. And I was like, I can plant different stuff. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they did know what they were talking about, because they're gonna grow at different rates. Then you're gonna have to get a spatula, and then you're gonna have to try to spatula it off of there. And it is best if you just grow the same exact plant on every single tray separately. So yeah, that's what I do. So, once you've had them on there about 3 weeks, or they're about this, I mean, some people grow them to about this tall, I would transplant them out. You're gonna be able to tell, there's gonna be roots coming out the sides. It will self-prune the roots itself. They'll kind of, it's really neat though. You can pick up the whole thing and turn it upside down and see all the roots.
Oh, wow.
It's really neat to look at how they grow. It really gives you a new perspective on a plant. And sometimes if you put a seed at the bottom of the block, on the side, and you just leave it there, it's really neat because then you can see all the roots and root hairs on there as well, and that's really, really cool. Now, something I forgot to tell you all. Sometimes, through all your efforts, you're gonna get, even if you don't overwater your plants, you're gonna get fuzzy mold on top of it, okay? Best remedies. I heard when I started this, you could sprinkle cinnamon on there. I would not do that because cinnamon straight on some plants they don't like it. If you really have a problem with that, you can, because it can cause a problem, like root rot, and you can have issues. I would take cinnamon sticks, boil it with some water, cinnamon sticks, like a 1 to 2 ratio. So if you've got like, 2 cups of water, put 1 cinnamon stick in there and boil it up. Take it off the eye, let it completely cool, put it in a spray bottle, and spray it on top of your soil block, and it will eradicate it. And then, if you do this in your house, and your spouse does not like all of the potential gnats that you will have eventually, because it will happen. There's lots of products out there, but this right here is the best one. It's just this little thing, and you peel this off, and it is sticky, and the gnats like the yellow, and you'll go down there the next day and they'll all be on it. Because if you're putting this in your basement like we do, you'll eventually have gnats upstairs in your house, and your partner, spouse, significant others, whoever you live with, probably won't be happy when they're trying to brush their teeth and there's gnats on the mirror. And I speak from experience. So this year I
God loves you.
He does. It's a good thing. We had this and I got some spray. And with the spray came these little yellow things. And I used the spray once and these worked so well I didn't use the spray ever again. I just stuck these on my racks everywhere and it's amazing. I ordered them on Amazon. And I don't even know what they're called. But I will look up and see if I can, let me see if this bag says what they're called. It's just called Plant Spray with Sticky Trap. So, Sticky Trap for gnats would be my guess, but let me see if I can look it up and see if I can find it. Gnat Sticky Traps for fruit flies is what it's called.
But
And they're different shapes.
my first try was like
Butterflies,
darker, so.
birds.
Okay.
So it's called Gnat Sticky Traps for, fruit flies, is what it's called. So
Okay.
you can just order, there's like butterflies and, well, that didn't work. Yeah, Sticky Trap for gnats, you get.
Well, sometimes in the summer I get gnats just on my
Same
regular
thing.
plants.
Yeah,
in the
so,
house.
and you can use these, for any type of gnat, you'll get fungus gnats, and my niece is like, yuck. I said, well, I'm just telling you what it's called. They're called fungus gnats, so I never say that for her anymore. I never say it for my husband either. I just call them gnats because they freak out. But it could be fruit flies, it could be gnats, it could be fungus gnats, just depends. They're just, if you overwater your plants,
Yeah.
they really go wild. So it's like gnats gone wild. They just love overwatered plants. They normally, you'll read stuff that says they don't bother your plants, but then you'll read stuff that says they eat on the roots. So it's not fun to have them in your house, so I just suggest some gnat sticky traps because,
That's a really good idea.
yeah, it was the best thing. When you're doing this, and y'all know life's like this too, but a lot of farming is trial and error. I feel like my background in teaching science and taking a bunch of science classes helps me just about as much as anything. I tell people I use my biology degree more on the farm than I did all these years probably. So but a lot of it's just trial and error. You know, you try something and you're like, yeah, that didn't work too well. We use capillary bedding on our tables in our greenhouse this year because it's supposed to hold water. It did. Did not work very well. Because then the roots in the bottom of the floor pack grew into the capillary bedding. And then whenever I had to move the trays out, it was stuck to the thing. So some plants, we have different theories about what happened, but we won't use it again, basically. But it did keep us, when we watered, if we had something underneath the table, it kept plants underneath the table from getting waterlogged. But it didn't work too well. So every year there's something.
Do you use wire racks?
We do, we have tables that have wire across them, and then the water will go through. There's all kinds of issues people don't think about. Like, for instance, if you hanging baskets in your greenhouse above and you use drip irrigation with them, that's great. But if you don't have a saucer in the bottom of them, the water drips through the bottom of the hanging baskets onto your table and waterlogs everything below, it's a big mess. But if you have a saucer underneath it, your plant can get too much water.
Black on
Yes,
bottom.
so black on bottom, white sticking up.
Out of the dirt.
Yes, out of the dirt. You can just stick it in there until it's like that. And the way that you can remember that is if the darker end is up, you won't be able to really see it, so the white tips will stick up. That was just something I found out from trial and error. And marigolds will germinate so fast very well. And I normally with marigolds, even though they germinate really fast and really well, I normally just stick 2 of them in each little dimple, each little brownie, or I stick them in between in the cracks. Because a lot of times with certain plants and seeds, you'll find that you can seed it with a lot more seeds than 20, and you'll still get a lot of them growing, and then you can pull out and plant more than 20.
Well, I like how they look like miniature paintbrushes.
They do. The key advantage to this is space. Anybody can start seeds inside with very little space this way. You could have a little table in a corner in a little office den with this, with a little light. You can buy lights at Rural King or Walmart or any type of hardware store. Buy the lights that aren't hot to the touch. I think they're T4s or T8s, I can't remember. Anyway, don't buy the ones that'll be hot to the touch. Buy the ones that are like LED lights or something that if you touch them when you're watering, you won't burn yourself. So don't get those lights you'll get burned on. Cause then if you have to move the light or adjust the light or adjust it higher or lower. The other thing when you're planting and your plants need light and they want to grow, you want your light to not be right on top of the plant, but you don't want the light to be really far away if you're starting seeds. Because then what happens is your plants stretch toward the light, and tomatoes are notorious for that. And if they stretch and they get too thin of a stem, they won't conduct capillary action and pull water up to the leaves as well. And they also will get spindly and fall over, and no matter what you do, you'll never get them back. You want a big, what I call a big husky stem. That's what I call it. So you want a big, thick stem on your plants. It's better for water transport, it's better for support. They may not be as tall. A lot of times people come to the greenhouse and are like, this is the biggest tomato plant you got. Like, yes. And they just kind of look at me because they want these big, huge, tall stems. But there's 2 reasons for that. We don't want them to get spindly, and we also want them to have husky stems. We also don't use a lot of fertilizer in the beginning because we don't want them to get tall and spindly. And sometimes it's better to let them grow on their own before you start dosing them with a bunch of fertilizer. Otherwise, they get a little fertilizer addiction.
It is no wonder your nephew
Just did that. Is that
spilled the.
Solution?
Yes.
Yes.
Because you mentioned it, I
yes.
had to see it.
Yes, and just sprinkle it on top.
Yes.
I just sprinkle it on top.
Johnson.
Okay.
So I didn't show you all this, but if you're seeing a lot of stuff, I bought this at a hardware store. It's supposed to be for like, anything you wanna like pour. So if you have a bunch of seeds, you can do this, and then if you have extras, you can pour them back in your pack. Just make sure if you're planting one thing after another, you get all the seeds of the last thing off of there. If you're seeding something that's a small seed, like what Mimi's got now, tomatoes, peppers, etc., that gets stuck to your hand, a lot of times seeds will get static. They have little anti-static aluminum little things you can get. But you can also put water in a little thing like this. Take a toothpick and then just put it in the water, touch it with the seed, put it on the thing. And after about 15 of those soil blocks, you'll be an expert at that. Some seeds don't work. Some people use tweezers or forceps. I don't, because then it never feels like I go to get a seed and the seed pops over here somewhere. So I like the toothpick method the best, personally. So
Now, where are you located?
I'm in Rural Retreat. We are Magnolia Lane Farms and we're on Magnolia Lane in Rural Retreat. So we're like, you get off the exit and you just literally go straight down Cedar Springs Road, down Main Street. You'll see the Orange Water Towers. And when you go past the Orange Water Towers, right before you get to Rural Retreat Lake Road, we're on the right. You just go down through there. You can't miss this house with 2 greenhouses.
And now, are you retail or wholesale?
We do a little bit of both. We do the town planters for the town of Rural Retreat. We sell to Open Door. We sold hanging baskets to Open Door this year. We sold them at a wholesale price for them. And then we have a retail greenhouse that we sell plants out of. So we do a little bit of wholesale for bulk orders for towns. We sold a bunch of plants to the town of Hillsville. So if y'all go to the town of Hillsville and see their planters, those plants they got from us. And the town of Rural Retreat planters we did, and they were in our greenhouse for a couple months growing. And then, like I said, Open Door's got hanging baskets for raising money to help feed the community. So we've done a lot of that. So we also do,
I didn't have to do that.
You have all their
You have a free what?
Yeah.
you did get a
I got a free nap.
Mimi's already got a gnat in her bag.
No, this is the bag that's going back with you. I planted those
What?
four.
You don't want it anymore? Just take those home and take some seeds and then plant them, or let hosts plant them.
Make Dixie do it, okay?
All these, what?
Some of these, are open now.
These seeds are yours, so you all are dividing all these seeds up and taking them with you. These are free for a good home for you all. I'm not taking seeds back and I'm not taking trays back. They're all yours. All yours. I have less to pack up and haul back if you all take all these. So someone can take this one. It'll just have to dry out a little bit. And let me see. So all the seeds are yours to divide up and take. And I have enough of these for all of you to have one of my little birds. Here, baby. Tara, here's one for you.
Okay.
Here's one for Janet. You're welcome.
You are
Here's one
such a
for
good
Deanna. Well, thank you. And then I have one left. So now you got a gnat trap.
Yeah.
Clearly, Mimi already used one. Okay, well, cool. Really teeny tiny, huh? So if you don't have one of those, you need to take a red Xenia. Y'all need to take all of these seeds with you.
Or put them in our seed exchange.
You could do that too. You could do that too. It is up to y'all. These seeds were, gifted to us. And since they were gifted to us, we pay it forward and we always take them whenever we work with, third graders. We give them away when we go do workshops. So we pay it forward. So that's why we just share our wealth. Besides, I have a seed problem, so I have a whole basement, a whole section of the basement is full of seeds, so I really need to share. I would like you all to let somebody know how your plants grow here at the library, so that I know, somebody can let me know.
Yeah.
Somebody can let me know.
Poinsettias at Christmas?
We do not, and I will tell you why. We did this so we could do it seasonally, so that when we retire, we're not working all year. So we start planting plants at the end of January, and we're out by Halloween, and that's it. And that's even longer than what we wanted to do. So yeah, we start January. Last year we started in February, this year we started in the January, and then Halloween is we're done. Done by Halloween. Usually that's the time that we stop cooling the greenhouse and it's starting to get cool and and we don't heat it then because propane costs a fortune to heat greenhouses. So we usually just turn everything off then. And when we have had about 3 or 4 hard killing frost inside our big greenhouse, that's when our dahlias here will be done. And they're about spent by then unless they bloom later. So that's usually by the end of October is when we don't have any more dahlias anymore and we're like, oh thank goodness we're done.
And you do the dahlias in the greenhouse?
We do dahlias in the greenhouse and in the field.
Okay.
And that is our biggest cut flower. So we do dahlias and lilies and gladiolas and what else do we have there? We have some liatris. If y'all don't know what liatris looks like, look it up. It's a spiky type of flower. It's not really coming back this year though. It's been in the greenhouse for a couple of years. I love to do bells of Ireland, but it's too late to start those because they need cold. Lysianthus is a flower that looks like a rose that we do some of. Dusty Miller. And then I usually plant zinnias, but I hadn't planted them the last 2 years, and then I get so mad at myself that I don't have them because they're cut and come again, and so are dahlias. So if you want something all summer to like have and cut and share and bring inside all summer long, then you need something that's cut and come again. So you need dahlias, you need zinnias, you need stuff like that you can cut, and the more you cut, the more it blooms.
How tall do the zinnias grow?
It depends. There's some that'll get shorter. There's some maybe that I've had that are like this tall in a big row, like a big section. So they can get pretty tall in a cluster. Also, you can plant plants a lot closer than they tell you. I plant dahlias like 6 inches apart. They say a foot. We cram them in there. You can cram them into a lot of space. Now, some things will get overcrowded, you have to thin them out, but you can plant zinnias very close. You can plant snapdragons like 6 to 4 inches, 4 to 6 inches apart.
Are dahlias tubers?
They are. They're tubers, and we sell those every year. So if y'all want need some dahlia tubers next year, we the type we buy are all tall varieties, and they're taller than me. Some of them, like this one that I cut off today, it was a plant that was like here, like I had to cut the stem, and I couldn't reach to the top of the flower. So we buy all tall varieties. They're clumps of dahlias. They're clumps of tubers. So I call them an octopus. They have a stalk in the middle, and they have all these little like cigars, is what I call them, that hang down. And so it's a clump. And so like if there's like 7 on there, the next year you'll have more like 17 of those little things. You can't split them. I've never split mine because I'm too afraid. Because if you split them wrong, you'll get greenery and it blows. So I don't split them. But we do go back in and fill in where the ones didn't come back, which we've already done that in the greenhouse this year. But yeah, dahlias are tubers. We sell them in the spring for $5 a piece. There's a lot of varieties that you wouldn't be able to find at a big box store around here, because the minimum for what we buy is 25 tubers a piece. So we buy usually thousands of dollars worth of tubers each year, and we plant them all, but then we'll sell them to people that want to come buy like a tuber's $5 a piece, which is usually varieties, like I said, that you won't be able to just go out to Lowe's and get. And we have a lot more people that come every single year and buy dahlia tubers. So, Julianne, it was great to have you with me.